So, with the Bernie Sanders movement, there was what you would call a grassroots movement. That meant, well, let's define it. The definition in Wikipedia, wherever they get their source from, says a grassroots movement, often referenced in the context of a political movement, is one which uses the people in a given district as the basis for a political or economic movement. So it starts from the ground, grass, up. Um, Now, what's the difference between that and, the Articles of Confederation? The Articles of Confederation was giving the 13 states power and having a less centralized power in form of central government. Now, they did have a Congress, but they didn't have an executive branch, so no president, no cabinet members, and that would mean that's basically grassroots power, not grassroots movement, because now we need a grassroots movement in order to stifle political federal overreach, central power that has more power than any or all states combined. Um, so, if people really like grassroots movements, why don't we just move towards the Articles of Confederation? I mean, do the problems we have now, are they the same problems that we had back then, like 1780, in the 1780s? I don't think so. I mean, when we need a budget, some states might refuse, and there's tariff wars, etc. Or we might have a need to quickly assemble for war, and generate an army, etc. But do we have those problems now? And there are states that could probably take on military duties, because most of our bases are just in certain areas of the country. They're not spread out in every state. So there's that. So you've got to think to yourself, grassroots movement. Do we, everyone loves a grassroots movement except for the corporatists, because they're outnumbered, really, because all their wealth is just in that small percent. Now, for those who don't think that we are a corporatist uh, country, I mean, we're a capitalist country, but how does our government operate? Well, it operates almost exactly like a corporation. How does a corporation look? A corporate structure. You could see how it is, but most of you actually work for companies. You know how it works. You got the owner or the CEO. They tell, like, the VPs and things like that. Here, I'll show you an image. Pyramids, whatever. VPs, they talk to directors, tell them what needs to be done. The director delegates to the managers, and managers, manage the staff, pretty much. Top down, not bottom up. Now, so our government structure has been like that for quite a long time. Um, so, yeah, we operate much like a corporation, whether you like to think that or not, or against that, it is. Um, Now, my time in the Navy, and I love my time in the Navy, the experiences. Do I agree with our military practices? No. Do I agree with a lot of structure within the military? No. There can be better changes. There can be improvements. There can actually be uh, a lot more accountability from the top and not just from the bottom. Chain of command. You usually hear that term a lot in the military. It works a lot like corporations, um, but not always so. And just not all corporations, follow the same structure. What I remember that I liked the most was when you get to that administrative point. You've got the I was in the Navy, so you've got the what did you call them? Wow, I'm having trouble remembering. Anyways, you got the people above you in the chain of command that do all the administrative paperwork. The ones that we really respected as for enlisted are the people who knew on the ground what they needed to do, but they knew that there was some red tape going on that they couldn't get past. So they would talk to the chief. The chiefs is what I meant. So they talked to the chief, and the chief would say, "Okay, I'll get that for you." You know, those were the great. You know, um, that's when a lot of work got done because sometimes you'd have a chief that would be like, I don't think he knows what he's doing. All right, we'll try it his way, and then you do it. It's like, you guys should have done it right, and I told you how to do it right. And we're like, well, we did exactly what you said. Well, you guys didn't do it right enough. It's like, well, if you knew what was going on, we could have done it correctly, but you gave us orders, and those orders were bad. But the accountability isn't on him, really, it was on us. So if we did good things, sometimes that same chief or officer would take the credit, not really give credit where it was due. And then when we got in trouble for not carrying out those orders successfully, we got in trouble and not them. So accountability stopped and started at the bottom rung. That's not always the case, but it was usually the case. But when you've got the ground knowing exactly what they need to do, they can't get past these things because of corporate red tape, what have you. That works great. So I'm hoping that corporations in our society that can start operating that way, but it's not successful because the model of success isn't necessarily about product success or revenue all the time. A lot of it is valuations. How good does the company look, not necessarily how good they're doing. Some of that does matter, but not all the time. So anyways, this is something that I want to share. Your thoughts on what my talking points were about grassroots movements, or going towards the Articles of Confederation, with more power going to local counties and less power to federal central government. How our corporations operate, is that just as good as how we want our government to operate? Is that how we see a successful administration in our government? I don't necessarily think so. I mean, that's all we know. That's all we followed. There are other countries that operate in different ways. I want to examine them and give you an example or multiple examples and see if that's what I think you, the viewer, because I don't think there's more than one person viewing this. So think that if that's a good idea or not.